Are your course clients watching the videos and doing nothing else? Are they getting to a certain point that you just can't get them past? It might be your activities. I'm Dr. Catrina Mitchum, and I have been designing and redesigning courses online since 2009. So why does this happen, right? Why do we build our courses around action taking and then nobody does the actual actions? First, the value of that activity might not be clear. So this is why it's really important to make sure that you, as the course designer, articulate the why behind everything you have them do. So every task should have, this is why you're doing this. This is why this builds off of what we did in the past and why it's going to work with what we're doing moving forward. Because if the value is not clear, they're not going to do it. Value also relates to the value to them, right? So how this is going to help you reach your goals, how this is going to impact your real life world experiences. And that brings me to the second one. They can't see how the task connects to their goals, right? And so the work might feel too abstract. It might feel too big for them to do and connect back to their why, to their goals, to their real life. The third one is that the activity feels too time consuming, specifically for the payoff that they'll get. And that is also directly related to unclear time expectations. If I open up an activity and to me it looks like it might take me an hour, but really it's designed to only take 30 minutes, then I might close it. I might close it down because I don't have an hour. All I have is 15 minutes. And I can't see what that payoff is. I can't see how investing this amount of time is going to lead to a big enough payoff. They may also have a fear of doing it wrong or imperfectly, right? You might get some perfectionists in your course. Some of you might get more than others depending on what it is that you're trying to teach. And so they may get hung up in trying to be perfect instead of trying to make progress. Learning is messy, right? And so sometimes perfectionism can get in the way of completing actions. Sometimes it's because there's not enough there for them to actually complete the activity, right? There's not enough questioning. There's not the right questions for them to get an answer that they feel is useful for them moving forward. There's no connection to other activities. And so if it's not clear how this piece is building on this block and is offering foundational support for the next block, it can be more difficult to want to complete an activity. The next one might sound a little harsh, but your activity might be boring, right? And so part of this whole playlist is about engagement, right? And so we want things to be both practical and engaging. And so boring activities can lead to not being completed. Now, boring is something that's different for everybody, right? And so that kind of leads us to the next one. It can also happen because there are no options, right? Someone might find writing boring, but they might like to talk. And so even just offering well, you can write out this reflection versus make yourself a voice note. Like those two different ways of approaching completing the activity can make all the difference in whether or not something feels boring. The other thing about boring activities is it needs to be just challenging enough, but not too challenging. And that will help make something not boring. And it's not the last reason, but it's the last reason I'm going to cover in this video why people don't do the activities is that the instructions are overwhelming or confusing. So maybe you're having them do too many steps at once. Maybe there's no clear starting point. Maybe there's no connection between the steps that you're having them do. Maybe there's not enough clear and concise steps. Maybe there aren't enough steps. Maybe you're jumping too big from one step to the next. Like there's all different ways or reasons why instructions might feel overwhelming or confusing. Okay, so how do we fix these things? 1, frame activities in terms of what the result's going to be. So this activity will help you do X. That activity will help you do Y. Activities X and Y will help you get to activity Z, right? So being transparent and upfront about how the activity helps them do the thing, the big thing that they came to you for. 2, breaking complex activities into smaller chunks, right? And this takes care of that like too many steps thing in an activity. If it's too complicated all in one go, it can feel overwhelming. And so breaking it down into smaller pieces can help people complete the activities because it doesn't feel like a Herculean task to do the activity. They can do smaller steps. And this is going to really depend on who your audience is. And so right sizing by who that is. What skill level did they come to you with? And so it's really going to take understanding who your client is as a learner of the thing that you're trying to teach them. Another fix for activities not being completed is to set clear time expectations for each task. Now, this can be a slippery slope if you don't consider, 1, that you're the expert and so it's going to take you less time. 2, it takes people different amounts of time to do different tasks. And so you want to give an estimate, like an estimated range. So this activity might take you 15 to 45 minutes, depending on how much experience you have, whether or not you already have a logo or, whatever it happens to be based on what you're teaching. You can articulate a range for how much time it might take. And this is something you can refine as you go by asking in the beta test of everyone that buys your course, how much time did this activity take? And then you can adjust those expectations or those estimates very easily as you go. You can create a minimum viable completion guide, right? And so this is a guide for if you do nothing else, do this. If you do nothing else here, do this. And designing the course so that folks can get what they came for just by doing the bare minimum, right? If your goal is to do this, then these are the things that are important. You can also create clear connections between the effort and the results, right? And so this will help take care of that, like the time doesn't feel worth the payoff. And so articulating like why this 1 hour activity builds a foundation for those other things that are going to get you to that goal, right? And so sometimes it's about, that they need to eat the broccoli in order to be able to also eat the cupcake. And this is about making the broccoli more palatable. Like, we're going to put cheese on it because I know that if you eat this broccoli with the cheese, then you'll be able to get to the cupcake. And the last fix I'm going to cover here is, and I gave a little bit of example earlier, but it's about giving options and making things not boring by connecting it to the real world. Those things all kind of go hand in hand. So for example, let's say you got an activity based on finding their why for their business. This is a pretty common question for folks that are just getting started in business. And so if you just ask, why do you want to do this? Or what gets you out of bed in the morning? Or what makes you filled with purpose? Sometimes the response might be because I'm burnt out, because I want to make money, because I want to just sleep on the beach, because I want to leave my job. And those are all fine answers, probably true answers. But are those the kind of responses that are helpful for figuring out that why? No, right? We want to dig a little bit deeper than that. And so what you might instead ask them to write, to draw, to voice note is the answer to a scenario, right? So you build a scenario and have them respond to the scenario. So a scenario for that question might look something like, imagine that you get to do something that you love and get paid for it. What's the work that you're doing for the first client you have, and how does it make you feel? Why is this motivating enough for you to want to do it more, right? And so we've got setting the scene, and then we've got a multi-step question. Thinking through all of those parts are important to really understanding the why behind the things they imagine themselves doing. You could even have them do this for more than one type of activity or more than one thing they love, right? Most people love doing more than one thing. I love to read, but I would answer this question differently about reading than I would about helping people with courses, right? Different motivators. And so that's just one example of how you can kind of use scenarios to help build questions that really help them connect to the things that are motivating to them. Okay, so now you've got some things to test out and try out for your activities. Still not sure how to apply these to your specific course? Grab one of your activities and a 30-minute session. The link is in the description, and we will walk through one together. I've talked in the past about accountability and support. So next time, we'll find that sweet spot of accountability without becoming the course police. If it's not there, it will be there next week.